Welcome to Feminine Power Time. Turn off the chatter and tune in to what matters. This is Christine Arylo, your host, and today I welcome you to episode number 200. That is number 200. I feel like we should have a little ticker-tock parade. Celebrating the 200 marker here with the episode that I have dubbed Purposeful Patience. Practicing the ease over the rush. I know I'm not going to ask you to say purposeful patience, and I hope I'm not popping my P's there many times in a row, because that is a little bit of a tongue twister. And let's be honest, it's not just a tongue twister, it's like a life twister. How many of you, just go ahead and raise your hands, have been card-carrying members in the Impatience Club? How many of you have ever pushed things when maybe it wasn't the right time? How many of you ever felt anxiety that things weren't moving faster or had a hard time slowing down? I think all of us could raise our hands to that. And that is why here it is actually the end of a calendar year that we're at live as I'm making this. But whenever you're listening in, this will be totally relevant. I really wanted to stop and pause and do an episode on purposeful patience. Purposeful patience has actually been my theme for this whole year. So one of the things that we do in the Emerge Visioining process every year is we pick a theme, or a theme picks us, that's at the center of that specific year. And then that becomes the theme or the mantra or the kind of overarching curriculum, if you will, that really supports us as we go into the year to kind of keep us centered. And purposeful patience was mine. Patience on its own, I'm just like, oh, I know, I should be more patient. Oh, I should be more patient. Oh, I should. And then we never succeed when we do things from the should. But when I put purposeful in front of patience, everything changed for me. And so what I wanted to do for you all today is share some of the pearls of wisdom that I received about what purposeful patience is, and not just what it is from a conceptual point, but how we live it. Because that's what we do here, right? At Feminine Power Time is we take those kind of vast or esoteric or, wisdom-based traditions, and we bring them into the practical. And patience is one of them. Of course, patience is a virtue. We all get that. But how do we do that in our lives and in a way that allows us to do all the things that we want to do and achieve all the things we want to achieve and create what we want to create? And when you put purposeful in front of patience, a whole new world opens up for you. It's one of the really great things of studying something for a full year or going through a process where you have a theme or a center point for your year, is that the universe starts to give you all kinds of good wisdom. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to share 3 parts of those wisdom. And hopefully each one of these will be a practice for how can we practice the ease over the rush. So I'm going to speak a little bit just here for a moment about where we're at in the cycle of the year. And then this will be relevant. I'm just going to go into the general principles of this. So it'll be relevant at any point in whenever you're listening to this. But since it is the end of one calendar year and we're going into a new year, I want to kind of share a couple things on that first. So I wrote some notes down, as I always do, and I lit a candle on my altar here that has 2 stones that say create harmony. And a candle is lit in the middle and the sun is shining. And wherever this finds you, I'm going to just go ahead and invite you to press that pause button or slowing down button and moving ourselves into a lower gear. One of the things that we know and that we practice here is that wisdom doesn't move on Google speed. And the wisdom and the guidance and the insight and the higher levels of intelligence, they're found in the space and the stillness, not in the forward moving action. I love forward moving action, so I'm not dissing it, but a lot of forward moving action that happens in our world, in our culture, in business, especially in business, in all of our work environments, for all the things that we're out there doing in our own lives. I mean, how often do you find yourself busy, or have you found yourself busy before. Every time a person says that word, I like literally cringe. I'm like, you don't have to be busy. You can be full and you could have a great dance card, but the busyness is just a form of freneticness, and we're not present in our lives when we're busy. We can be full, we can be in a time of intensity, and you can be absolutely 100% present. Think of it as any athlete or anybody who's doing an intense dance. They're present, because if you're not present in the moment, you will fall over. You won't be able to actually perform your great feats. But in busyness and in rush and hustle, which is one of those words out there that people are always like, what's my side hustle? And I'm going to hustle. And every time I hear that word, I cringe as well. And for any of you that use that word, this is not a personal attack on you in any way. It is more of an invitation to consider the words you're using and what the reality is that you're creating. So take a deep breath. And just be here now, whatever you're doing. I feel like, I always feel like with Feminine Power Time, we are connected heart to heart. So I'm going to start here with, the place that we're at in time. So at the end of the year, it is a natural time to be downshifting. And it is a time that usually people crash. They crash into the end of the year because they've been so busy and they've been hustling so much the whole beginning of the year. And then they step over the imaginary line of January 1st, and it's like hitting a brick wall, and they're right back into the hustle and to the rush and the I am behind. And all the BS that we've been talking about here for as long as Feminine Power Time has existed. And some of you have already extricated yourself from that matrix, so good on you. And many of people are like partly in and partly out. And my role is to be here on a consistent basis, whether it's through Feminine Power Time, or it's through the Emerge Visioning Process, or it's through Feminine Wisdom Way, or it's through a myriad of things that I do and create, is to keep a rhythm to a different rhythm that says, actually, easeful is right. Rushing, hustling, busy, part of the matrix, part of what keeps you in fear, in anxiety, in worry, in doing more than you actually need to do, and doing more than is actually needed. That completely fuels this banana world of too much, not enough, overconsumption, more is better. And so one of our principles is, if we want to see the world different out there, we first have to look within, where we've internalized some of these imprints and some of these ways of being and leading and living and succeeding and valuing or believing it's how it has to be, and saying, actually, no more. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to institute my power of #harmonic defiance, and I'm going to choose to do it differently. So speaking of doing things differently, as we continue to kind of deepen in another level here, just 2 announcements. 1, remember that doing it differently requires structure. And so that is why we do the Emerge Visioning process every year in January and early February. And so you are 100% invited to that. And so please check that out at emergevisioning.com. Or you can also spend the whole year with us living in this structure of working in the moon cycles and in the rhythm of the year and applying it to how we create. So what we create is actually in the flow, and we can live this do less, receive more, achieve a greater impact. And you can learn more about that at the Feminine Wisdom Way, which also includes Emerge. So that always starts in early January. You are invited, and I hope to see you there. And that is part of how I made Purposeful Patience a reality in my life. So let's ease into all of this with some words, just to give us some perspective. So again, the name of this is Purposeful Patience, Practicing the Ease over the Rush. And sorry if you can hear my paper rustling around here. I, of course, as a wordsmith, needed to dive into, let's look at these words of ease and rush and hustle. So you can decide which of these you would like to move into this year as? What is the energy you would like to do it as? And as I share this, I want to just also kind of expand you as all to think that what we're going to apply here at a year level is also true at a month or a moon level, a week level, and a day level. So just like when we're ending and starting a year, right? Every day you start and end a day. And every week you start and end a week. And most people don't, unless you're following the moon cycle, you don't even really realize, it's a new month, but you just kind of go month after month after month and then, plop into the end of the year. But even at a moon cycle, when you start practicing the moon cycle rhythms, there's a rhythm of this easing into a new year or a new week or a new day, instead of just hitting the ground running or rushing in or hustling to get started. So here are the different frequencies. You can decide which one you want to employ this year, and then bring this practice into your days, your weeks, and your months. So ease means the modern day definition is, I love this, freedom from labor, pain, or physical annoyance, tranquil rest, comfort. Ease means freedom from concern, anxiety, a quiet state of mind. It means to free from anxiety or care, to abate pressure, tension, to become less painful, burdensome. And if you go all the way back to the root of it, around 1100, it comes from the Middle English and the French, meaning comfort and convenience. So just imagine applying that energy of ease to how you complete this year and begin that whole, if you think about a year, the whole month of January should have ease to it, because then you're ramping up in February and March and April, and the apex isn't until June, summer solstice, and then you come all the way back down to December solstice. And so that has a natural curve. The way that we look at it in cyclical living is it's actually a circle, but you can also think of it as an arc. And the same thing would be true as we're practicing purposeful patience in a week, right? So you have your Sunday, Monday, but I like to kind of think of Monday as the slow start Monday up until Tuesday, and then Wednesday. And that Wednesday, Thursday is like the top of the apex, and then down to Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So it has a natural easing up and a downshifting down. And the same thing is true for a day, right? It's why I always say, the first hour of your day, do not interact with the outside world. Really allow that to be your time, your space. Practice purposeful patience in your morning. This is where it's true even in your morning. I was just talking to a client of mine, and he was like, I'm like, just the first half hour of your day, we're going to practice purposeful patience, and you're going to ease into your morning and connect body, mind, heart, and spirit. So you're connected with yourself. And then you can go into the light to your day. He's like, but I'll be behind on my emails, and it's my time to catch up, and I'll have to get up a half hour earlier. I'm like, okay, slow it down. And this is practicing purposeful patience of those emails will still be there. All the things will still be there. And it's the same thing as just practicing this purposeful patience in how we end and start a year. It's almost think of it as car gears. This is something I really learned about purposeful patience, staying in neutral. It's okay to be in neutral. And we go from neutral to first gear to second gear to third gear, and then up to fourth and fifth, and then back down again. And if you're not in neutral, you're in forward movement. And it's okay to go from neutral to first to second, but you don't want to just hustle and rush into third and fourth gear. If you tried to go from neutral to third gear or fourth gear or fifth gear in a car, what would happen? The transmission would probably drop out. I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know exactly what would happen, but it would be bad. And so think about this. Okay, this is what hustle means. So you could go into hustling, and whether that's year, month, day, or week, hustle, to rush, to hustle. Okay, let me pull this up here. Okay, to hustle, means to shake or toss. That's the root of it. It means to proceed or work rapidly or energetically, to push or force one's way, to jostle and to shove, to convey or cause to move, especially to leave roughly or hurriedly. So just the hustle, roughly, hurriedly, forcing, jostling, shoving, shaking, tossing. Ugh, like, blah. Is that judgmental? It might be. It's like that is the energy of what it means to hustle. And so you might have like a moment of hustle, like do the hustle, do, right? Or like I hustled out the door, although much better to walk out the door. Because when you hustle, and you shake and you jostle, you forget things. You're not present. Can't be real present in that shaking and the tossing. Really hard to be. And then rushing comes from the late Latin. The root of it means to push back or refuse. And it's really like kind of shocking when you look at the word rush in its modern definition. It means to progress or act with speed and violence, to dash forward for an attack or onslaught, to accomplish something with speed, and I don't know, impetuosity and violence, to carry or convey with haste. And so, one of the things that we practice in purposeful patience and elevated leadership in the feminine wisdom way is we embrace stillness and swiftness. It's actually one of the power spectrums that is really important to being able to practice purposeful patience. And think of it that just those words together for a moment of purposeful patience. It's not patience like stagnation or patience like I'm just hanging out or I have to wait or, like you're in a waiting room somewhere. It's purposeful. And so in that purposefulness with intention, it automatically puts you into co-creation. And it automatically takes you out of that judgment that I should be, if I'm not being productive, that I'm not doing something. It's like, no, there's a purpose to my patience right now. There is a purpose to staying in neutral, which is a practice I use at the end of every year and at the beginning of every year, the last week of the year and the first week or two of the year. I have to say to myself, just stay in neutral. Just stay in neutral. Just stay in neutral. Because there's a part of me that wants to move forward and I can feel it like in my solar plexus. And I'm like, no, we got to stay in neutral, because to stay in neutral, when you're in neutral, like if you were in a car, you're not moving forward. So what that means is it's going to allow you to survey the environment around you. So if you think of it like from a perspective of a year where I might take 2 to 3 weeks to be in neutral. And it doesn't mean I'm sitting and I'm like not moving in my office, looking out the window. It's an active neutral. It's that stillness that we talk about in the feminine aspect of this power spectrum, which is like an owl who's awake, she's alive, she's watching, she's feeling, she's sensing, and she looks like she's just sitting there on her branch or her stoop, but she's not. She's very active. She's listening with all of her senses. So being in neutral is about, being active in all of with your senses and being in the present moment of what's needed versus pushing. And we'll get to that in a moment. And so in that neutral position, even if it's a moon, the new moon, I go into neutral on that first day or two of the moon cycle to just listen and to empty. And so every 29 and a half days for 13 moon cycles, I get a natural reset. And then I can listen. Where is my life force being called? Now, this month, this moon cycle, which I couldn't have predicted 3 moon cycles before that. And so as I'm kind of sharing this, just noticing a little bit, if you can even sense into like, how has your pace been thinking of this neutral, first, second, third, fourth gear, talking about purposeful patience at a day, week, month, moon, and year level? Like, where does this already happen? Like, are you able to wake up every day and practice purposeful patience of like, oh, like this first half hour, this first hour is like, it's for me? Or are you feeling that rush and that hustle? And we have to expect that the outside world doesn't operate in purposeful patience yet. So there's lots of temptation, whether it's the beginning of a year, the beginning of a week. How many people on this planet wake up on Monday and just go right into work and right into their kids going to school, all of the things. And it's why they call it, that awful, the Sunday dreads. And what I'm talking about here in purposeful patience, it also connects deeply to our projects and to the things that we want to see in the world, which is kind of where we're going to go next, is that, many of us, and I want to just, ask you right now, like there are things that are changing in your life, right? Transformation that you're going through, things you want to see in form. So whether it's changing, it's a job change or a home change or a project or, any number of things that are in process. Purposeful patience is so important. One of the things that I learned in this last year was how much my human ego and my own anxiety or worry wants to move into the rush and the hustle versus the ease. And I want to take the control panel over, is because it's hard to sit in the uncertainty. It's hard to sit in the unknown, or if something isn't progressing where we can see it on a visible level, we start to get anxious about it. And I'm going to just read this wisdom bite that came to me. The overall meta thing that I learned, I'll presence the wisdom bite first, and then I will share the practice. Okay. Take a breath. Listen, this is really good. Okay, ready? Okay. Don't rush into a decision just to have things more fixed and secure once again. Take time to listen. I'll say it again. Don't rush to a decision just to have things more fixed and secure once again. So just take a moment and notice how that may or may not be showing up for you or has showed up for you, where you have rushed or hustled into a decision just to make things more fixed and secure once again. Or where you might be feeling that right now. And how that has in the past perhaps really not led to realities that were supportive of you. Where you moved, you hustled, you rushed, you reacted instead of doing what I call and is called playing and staying in the void. So the practice is playing and staying in the void. And the void is the not knowing. The void is the emptiness. The void is we're not where we're going. We're not where we've been. There's a great word in Tibetan Buddhism called the bardo. This makes me exhale because there's a part of me that doesn't like the void. It doesn't want to be in the bardo. The bardo is like the in-between place between where you're going and where you've been. And every time we're making a decision, whether it's small decision, like I was just was planning this retreat that I'm doing at Canyon Ranch in January, and was waiting for all the final information to come through, and they didn't have the website up because we didn't have the picture and we didn't have this, and so I wasn't able to fully communicate it to people or also make my plane reservations. And so I'm in this void. I'm in the bardo of we've said yes, we're going to do this together. It's happening. But I was in that place of that impatience of come on, let's get this going. Why is this taking so long? And, I could just feel my desire to just book my plane ticket and just, get it onto my website and just get it out there before it had actually come back to me in form. But I played and stayed in the void. And so it was 2 weeks ago, I think I might have mentioned this on the podcast. I'm like, okay, I'll just let you all know about it. And so I'm playing with it. I'm still in the Bardo, but I can let you all know about it. And I'm going to just book one leg of my trip because I'm going to Los Angeles to do some team power pauses for some organizations that I work with out there. And so I'm like, I'm just going to book that leg and not book the rest of the legs. And so I just did that one part. And so that's me playing and staying in the void in a very practical way. And I had to make sure I wasn't rushing, right? Or hustling. But this also is like very true in the bigger sense of how we complete a year and we start a year, or in our days or our weeks or our months. But I'm going to talk about it from a year perspective. Is one of the parts of this practice of staying and playing in the void and not rushing into a decision is it's really, and I have my hand on my heart right now, is that it's really important to take time to listen, to take time to imagine, to take time to what's called moodling, which is a word that my friend Paige Britt, who's the author of The Lost Track of Time, made up to give us a word for, like, it looks like we're doing nothing, but we're actually in that realm of imagination and possibility and creativity, which, by the way, if you've never read The Lost Track of Time, it's a great book. I highly recommend it. Actually, just talked to Paige today, and we were having Wise Woman Tea. And we were talking about, when we were looking at the world and what is some of this, just the craziness that goes on, like what's missing. And we were talking about imagination and soul and creativity. Like, the soul can't be rushed. Creativity can't be rushed. The soul needs space. The heart needs space. The mind loves to rush. The mind loves to hustle. The mind is quick. It wants it done, and it wants it done now. But a world created just from the mind without heart and soul does not care about the impact on humanity and the impact on people. And so this isn't just some nice hooty-wooty-doody self-help, blah, blah, blah. This is actually wisdom for living ourselves so that we can really live a sustainable life, but also so that the world that we create, like how many things when you look around with your eyes are not connected to soul and heart. But we got to live that way first, you all. And we have to be able to live in this purposeful patience that's really us valuing the listening and the imagining and the moodling. And it is uncomfortable for a couple reasons. One is we're used to this fast thing and that we value it. But if you don't have practices and you don't have connection to co-creation and you don't know how to work with intuitive inquiry and contemplation and meditation and creativity, intentional creativity, you just like, what are you going to do? Sit in the void and be like, I don't know what to do. No, that's like so anxiety producing, right? You need things to do inside of the void that, and that's where we're going to go next, practices that allow you to practice the ease over the rush. So like my Wise Woman Tea today with Paige, we were actually talking about this body of work with me that I am bringing into the world or co-creating into the world about focusing the self-love work and the intuition work on young women and young girls. So the choices that they make in relationship and career and life are actually really rooted in wholeness and wellness. And we're not just procreating the patriarchy, whether it's in the family systems we have or the societal systems we have. And I'm sure my mind could figure out all kinds of ways that should happen. But I'm taking time to listen and imagine and moodle, like over the course of years. I've been moodling on this since 2019. And so sometimes we will moodle and we will listen and we will imagine until we get pulled forward. And this is the part right now that I want to just presence. This is the next thing I learned, the wisdom bite. And this is actually an inquiry. So I want you to write this down or put it into your beingness so you can pull it out, which is, let me take a breath. Slow it down. Why am I whispering? Because it's fun, you all. It's fun. Okay, hand on my heart. Here it is. You ready? Okay. Am I pushing this, or is it pulling me? Am I pushing this, or is it pulling me? I want you to write that inquiry down and put it somewhere. You can come back to it or note this in your being. That is an inquiry that you want to be able to pull on in any given moment to really touch into, am I practicing ease right now? Or am I in the rush, the hustle, the pushing, the forcing, the striving? Ease is allowing and following and flowing and unfolding and evolving, and it's very active. But it's not the forcing and the trying and the striving. I mean, just think, like, where in your life have you been trying? You're trying, you're forcing, you're pushing, and you know how it feels. Like, how does it feel? How do you know when you're pushing something versus if it's pulling you forward? And just see if you can present something real in your life right now, or maybe in the recent past, where you felt the need to move even if it wasn't time. You were impatient. You had the forcing or the trying or the striving. Like, how do you know when you're pushing versus something pulling you forward? In the Overwhelmed and Over It book, in the section 4 on time, there's a whole section on pushing and forcing versus pacing and striving. Pacing and flowing. So read that in the Overwhelmed and Over It book. I don't have it sitting next to me, but it's in section 4. In this inquiry, why I'm giving you this inquiry as a practice, it's wisdom doesn't seek answers. Wisdom seeks inquiries that then open up portals of wisdom to us that allow us to gather a deeper level of self-awareness so that we can actually make systemic changes within ourselves, free us from the crazy-ass imprints that keep us striving and driving and forcing and creating a world that is centered in greed and consumption and excess and all of the things, and allow us to break free of those imprints and actually be like, there is this other way. And the question would be, the wisdom bite is easeful is right. It's a great wisdom bite that I learned from Richard Rudd through his Gene Keys work. And so you write that down. Easeful is right. And easeful doesn't mean there's not effort. Doesn't mean that there's not strength that's needed. Like, for sure, like, it will, like, I think of like writing Overwhelmed and Over It. It was so in the flow. And I gave a lot of energy and a lot of effort to that, but there was an ease, like it was flowing. Catherine Trini, my visual thinking partner, like worked with me step by step by step. My editing team at New World Library, step by step. Like, it was intense, but there was an ease to it. And that's that ease that, remember that it means comfort, freedom from labor, freedom from anxiety. Freedom from anxiety, you all, to lighten, to lessen the load, to lessen the burden. So just take a moment. And wherever you're at in your year, what if this year you chose, and I have one more practice for us, what if you chose to practice purposeful patience? And you chose to play and stay with the void and worked with that power spectrum of stillness and swiftness, like the owl who, like, when she's ready and she sees what she wants, man, she moves like swiftness. Whoosh, it's very efficient. And she always gets what she wants. That leads to aligned action, which leads to one of the core principles and practices in elevated leadership, when the feminine is leading and the masculine is supporting, is do less, receive more, achieve a greater impact. So part of the reason I'm still in the playing and staying in the void around this work with the young women and young girls is that there's lots of things I could do, but I'm doing the do less, receive more, achieve a greater impact, because I want to get so clear on what that impact is and where the points of power are at to make an impact, that I'm not just running around doing all kinds of things, which fragments our energy. And so that question of, and I'm so keenly aware of the difference between when I'm pushing and pulling, partly because I've been focusing on purposeful patience this year, but because I've been living this way for 20 years, the feminine wisdom way, I've been teaching it and living it for 7 years. And so there are these structures that living by the moon cycles, living by the yearly cycles, taking a whole month of January to dream, like they're in my being. And I make up these practices like stay in neutral, play in the void. Am I pushing or pulling? Because I'm not perfect. I don't have like this licked, like, oh, I'm so elevated that I never struggle. Like that's crap. And anyone that tells you that they are, like, I don't believe them. I just don't. I just don't. Like I don't. Maybe. But even the people who have taught me about grace, I know that they push and that they have challenges in the void. Like it's a natural human thing. We live in a crazy society that wants to pull us into the next all the time. But these are practices I come home to, that I have language for, and I'm inviting you into them. And that's why I share them with you. And so these last two, you can write these down. They go together. Inquiry leads to clarity. And creativity opens the door to possibility, which creates aligned productivity. Inquiry leads to clarity. So that's why I just gave you that inquiry. Am I pushing this or is it pulling me? I'm going to give you another one. It's called I wonder. The I wonder practice. We use this in all of my counsels. I love it. I use it in the Emerge Visioining Process. I just finished my year-end reflection and I put down a whole page of I wonders, and there's 17. There's 17 wonderings I have. And it was so helpful to write them down because instead of me feeling like I have to do something with them, they're sitting now in my Emerge 2023 journal, waiting for me to engage with them over the course of this next month plus as I go through my visioning and focusing and intention setting process. So you need a place to put the wonderings, or else they get all stuck up in your psychic space. So whether that is, you're participating in the Emerge process or you have a journal, this is another thing I do. I keep a journal for the whole year and the cyclical living piece. And so I can put these wonderings down. I don't have to have an answer. I'm in the I wonder. You could have an I wonder board, in your office somewhere. There's a holding space for these. And that I wonder place, I was just in a co-creative meeting with my collaborator, Catherine Trini. She and I do a lot of cyclical planning for corporations and organizations and teams. And so we were just talking, we were doing a reflection process on that work together that we've been working the last couple of years. And we just gave ourselves permission to do an I wondering ritual. And instead of like feeling like we had to figure it out, we're like, I wonder. And then we capture them all in the Zoom, and now we have a Word doc that has them all in there. I'm like, oh, there they all are. And so the universe is like holding those for us, and then we're in co-creation. So inquiry leads to clarity. And I just gave you two. Is this pushing? Am I pushing this or is it pulling me? And I wonder. And then the other thing is creativity opens our possibility that leads to that easeful productivity. And so you need to have processes and structure in which you are in co-creativeness with yourself, your heart, your soul, your higher intelligence, with the field around you, with others. And my question is what are those for you for this next year cycle that you have in place? And there are some people that can do that on their own. Most of us, we thrive when we're doing it in community and we're doing it in connection. And I think most of us need some structure at some point. 20 years ago, when I was given the wheel of reflection and taught it by my primary Indigenous wisdom teachers, Pele and Firehawk from Timeless Earth Wisdom, I now had a structure that I could use to reflect. I didn't have it before. Simple structure. Best structures are the simplest. And so what is that for you that's going to hold you through your visioning and focusing and intention setting, but also what's going to hold you as you co-create throughout the year at a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis. And it's like in the mornings, like having like having a journaling practice, or I have my yoga practice like that. There's this like creative energy that's happening. Or the other day I was painting. I'm like, I just need to paint this out. And creativity can happen in lots of different ways. But my question is just making sure that you have that structure to imagine, to listen, to moodle. So the possibility that you can't see with your intellectual mind, but is totally there, connected to your higher consciousness, can reveal itself. And if you're like, I don't even know what Christine is talking about, well, go read Paige's book, The Lost Track of Time. Check out the Emerge Visioning Process, emergevisioning.com, and try it out with us. And join us for the whole feminine wisdom way and the cyclical living and, actually living by these cycles, or come to the full feminine superpower year where we have the practices and the community and all of it on a monthly basis. You can find it about all of it on my website, christinearylo.com, or Feminine Wisdom Way is another URL you can go to. That's my job, right? Create the structures, share the practical wisdom, and really support us to find more ease. And also in that ease, have a greater impact. I know it's possible. It's a challenge. It's like a good yoga set. But together we're finding the way. And I'm really excited to go into another calendar year with you here. I'm excited to have passed the 200 mark. And in closing, I think for today, what I would invite you into, I want to leave you with two actions. One is please share this podcast with anyone that you think might also be in your life that would be a great person to be able to talk with about these kinds of things. And so that is how we grow things in the feminine and get this wisdom into the world. So I appreciate you sharing this with one other person. And in that, my act of elevation would be to play the I wonder game with this person or some person, just like I mentioned I did with Catherine. And it's as simple as, you can go back and forth and be like, I wonder, or to put a timer on and, do an I wonder for 5 minutes each and tape it or, scribe for each other. And then those can go and you can write those out and they can go somewhere. So you can be in relationship to them without feeling the pressure, like I freaking have to do something with this right now and I have to move on it. And then what will happen is that you will be pulled toward it and you will know that it's time to move. And on that project, on that thing, you'll feel it in your body, in your being, or the universe will show up with an email. Synchronicity will happen because you're in that co-creation. So share, invite someone to elevate with the I wonder. Dare to take the month of January to dream, sense into where your energy is being directed to go, and then seed in February. And join us for the structure and community in the Emerge Visioning process, emergevisioning.com. And in any case, I will see you back here next week.